Welcome back, Chess Masters. This is the second game analysis from Saturday's tournament, and I was especially excited about this game because of the players involved. I think I mentioned before, Diamond Dog seems to me, not many years ago, still learning how the pieces moved, and I had to keep reminding him. And recently, he challenged me online, and it's getting very tough for me to keep teaching him anything. I think in a few years he'll probably be beating me. So I'm very excited to see any of you in the future get really good and hopefully become grandmasters and kick my butt one day. So Diamond Dog's doing really well. As you can see his score here, and I'm sure you're aware he's been doing really well in the tournaments, winning most days. On Saturday he didn't for once, and he's up to 1300. So I'm only a couple hundred ahead of that on my slow games, so I think Diamond Dog will have to teach me soon. And I'm especially excited because he's playing so well, but Vhrinda, who I forget your age, but she's very young, and I'm especially excited because, as we know, there's mostly boys doing chess tournaments. She's getting to the top places, and she gave Diamond Dog a really hard time in this game. She played really well, so I was really proud as well. So let's see this exciting game. This was for the second place on Saturday. Vhrinda opens with the king's pawn. Diamond Dog more defensive, opening slowly. White's getting us solid control in the middle, and black challenges for the middle. Here you can either swap, or if I'm white, I like to push the pawn forward and get a good solid control in the middle. She decides to swap. Horse is coming out. Looks good. Sensible development with no mistakes so far. Horses and bishops out. Not too exciting, a slow opening. And I like these games where there's no big mistake and we slowly and carefully develop. So here, what do we think about this move? This is the first little mistake. How many attackers does black have? 2, the horse and the bishop. How many defenders does white have? Only 1. So there is a free pawn available here for black. And he doesn't take it. I wonder why. Now, this horse is actually pretty strong. It's a pretty powerful horse here. So we really should have taken this horse. Where's this horse going to go from here? Is this a good spot? Well, we could come in here, but white could just trade off and the black pawn would have to move away from the middle. So she moves back. So I don't think she thought about that. It's good to make a careful plan before we move in. What I would have done is kept this powerful horse in the middle and moved this pawn up. We can keep 2 pawns to defend. I would have kept the f pawn coming up to attack defend the horse in the middle would be really powerful. But she comes back and black sets up a pin. Horse now can't move or the queen gets taken. I would want to get rid of that bishop if I could, and it's tricky because if I move the queen away out of the pin, then white could take and the pawns get in a very messy structure. So, very good. She chases the bishop and the bishop decides to swap. I wouldn't swap that bishop. That bishop's in a good spot. I would have pushed the bishop back. We want to keep a pin available if we can. And now, does white develop well? Was white's queen better on the back or where it is now if you're black? You prefer the queen at the back. Now we're happy to bring the queen out. So I think this is a bit advantageous for Vhrinda. Makes sense. Diamond Dog gets the queen off the back line. And now it's time to get our castles in the middle. Get your castles in the open files. This is a second mistake for the game. What should black do now? Black's got 2 attackers. We can get a free bishop here. And he does it. So she could swap queens here, but fair enough. She doesn't want to swap because she's down a piece now. So makes sense to not. Oh, sorry, we can't swap off. We lose the queen, of course. So she's just lost the bishop, and she wants to chase it away. That's a bit tempting, but I wouldn't want to open my king's pawns too much. She chases the bishop away. Bishop comes back. And remember, white is down 3 points now. So if you want to be lazy as black, you could just offer swaps. Is it a good idea for the queen to come in on her own? Usually not. There is the possibility, of course, of coming here, but you'd have to get rid of this black knight first. Very nice spot for the castle on the open file. And I like this attack plan. She's planning, obviously, to threaten this horse and come in here. Let's see. And black's counter-attacking. Is this really dangerous? I wouldn't worry too much. The king moves. no problem. And I think, ooh, this is interesting because now she doesn't have time to attack the horse. There's the offer of a swap. Or what else could you do? There's not many other squares to move this queen. Can't see any other safe squares. So she decides on a swap. Black is up on pieces still. And now, one thing to be careful to note is as we get down on pieces, as we swap off, does the king need to be behind a wall and safely in the corner? Not really. Remember, once we get to the very end, it's an advantage to have the king towards the middle. So all of a sudden, without queens on the board, I wouldn't worry much that the white king is a bit open. I doubt the king will get in trouble. Horse gets chased away and comes back. Is that where you want your horse? Which piece is it blocking? We don't want to block the castle there. I would have moved the horse elsewhere. And black takes. And I think this is good for white because look at the black pawn structure now. These pawns are all together. These ones are separated. Diamond Dog comes to attack the horse. And I don't know why she swapped here. Would you swap? Remember, you're down on pieces. Is this horse in a good position? Not particularly. I would have where would be a better spot for that bishop? What about coming in here, attacking the castle and getting a free pawn? Would have been much better. Anyway, we've got a swap and a swap. And here as white, you could either have the swap and lose your bishop or run away. And I would have gone for the swap because if we swap, it's bishop for bishop. But this way, black's going to win a pawn. Black gets the extra pawn. Attacks the bishop. And if you're gonna attack the bishop, check where the bishop can go next. We did have to move this castle anyway, though, because it was under attack. Another free pawn, and it's starting to look like black's got a significant advantage now. She goes for a desperate attack on the king side, trying to open up the black king. Oh, and this is the mistake. Where could you have put that horse? I can see two good squares. 1, 2. I would have put it here in the center, but bit of a mistake here. Free horse, and the tables have turned. We don't know who's going to win now. Black's got a couple of pawns, but anything's possible now. Especially because, look, white's just won another pawn with a lovely fork. She wins another pawn, and these pawns are now pawn islands. So because they don't have support from other pawns, they're particularly weak, easy to take. But that's the right idea. Diamond Dog wants to get a pawn to the end. If you've got a pawn with no other pawns blocking it, this is the one. He wants to run to the end. And he didn't pay careful attention, though. And look at the time. If mistakes are being made, that should only happen when there's not much time left. These players have only used 2 or 3 minutes each, so they should be playing more slowly. If you wanted to win this game, you'd slow down, especially at the end. Your opponent's only got 3 major pieces. So every turn, if I was black here and I thought of moving my pawn, I'd first ask myself, where could white move? And unlike the beginning of the game, I can look at each piece and check every single square they can move on. There's only 3. Is this castle going to go anywhere? It's only a couple of moves to consider. Is this one? Is this one? And you would have quickly seen what's going to happen. So now, all of a sudden, 5-point castle is taken for a 3-point bishop. The game's pretty even. Black's got a little pawn advantage. White's got the 2 castles, which are also really strong. I love a game that turns and turns, and we're not sure when the tables turn who's going to win. Another pawn gets taken for white. And that pawn is really black's last big hope. And a bit careless there again. I think maybe Diamond Dog was rushing or not being careful, maybe distracted, because the bishop got taken, and now his last chance, this pawn. So if you're white now, have a little think about it. How would you stop that pawn? Which piece would you use? That's exactly right. I'd come back on the last line and block the pawn. Is this the best move? What should Vhrinda have done instead? She could have simply blocked the pawn off by going here. And then she would have been pretty comfortable. I could have then brought the other castle down and double attacked them with both. And I could have won comfortably. But, ooh, and here, what should black have done? This pawn supported. I would have pushed it to the end. She starts pushing her pawn, and now Diamond Dog sees it. He's going to lose the queen, but he's going to gain a castle. And again, the game is pretty even. Now Vhrinda's got the little advantage with the 1 extra pawn. You want to be very careful to protect this pawn. And now, it's very important. Remember I mentioned earlier, We don't want our king at the back now. We want to have the king in the middle to win, using your king to support your pawns and take your opponent's pawns. So they're having a race to get to the end. Can black stop this pawn? Is this black castle going to stop the pawn by itself? Really, eventually it's going to come down to who gets their king in play. Let's watch. See, that's the right idea. Diamond Dog knows to bring his king over. And is this an important move? Not as important as moving the king. So I think we should have brought the white king to the middle now. See, the black king's getting to the middle. That looks dangerous. And, oops, let's go back. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Spoil the ending. And here we are. This move looks like a very important free pawn for black. That's a bit of a rushed move. White king finally comes up, and now, as you can see, that king is attacking the pawn, and this pawn can't be protected. So, would you swap now? Here's the interesting question. Very important endgame tactics here. If you're white, would you take the castle or run away? Who's going to have their king in a better spot at the end? 2 pawns against 3 pawns. I would take, and she takes, because now my king should be able to get these pawns before this king can get over. Let's see. The race is on. We still don't know who's going to win. Black king comes over, but the white king's in a much better position. So white should win from here if there's no mistakes. She offers a swap. Would you take the swap now if you're black? First question is, if you're black, would you be happy with the draw? What do you expect to win? Black should be happy with the draw. And let's calculate. See how many moves you can think ahead here. Maybe pause the video. Take. And then what's going to happen to this pawn? Can the black king get close to the pawn? No, we can't go here because the white king will be here. And we can't go here because it's attacked by the pawn. So, Diamond Dog decides to do it. And the king has to move back. So she's got the extra pawn now. Can she get it to the end? Does anyone know what happens here? And here's the important move. We don't want to make a mistake here. The black king wants to stay in front of that pawn. How do you stop the king from getting in there? You have to use your own king. The king is the really important piece at the end here. White king should come forward. Does she do the right move? What's black going to do? It's going to come right over in the corner. And now, that was the difference between white winning the game and a draw. Just that little move at the end. You have to be really careful at the end here and consider. You only really have 2 options. So you should really think about both of them. Check. King moves in the corner. And what an epic game. That's a draw. I'm really proud of both players there. Did really well. And I love to see it get so close. And I'm really happy to see a really young player do so well against another really strong player. Good game, guys. Thanks a lot. Again, let me know if you have an interesting game, and if you're lucky, I will analyze your game. See you soon.